It's time to replace my speakers in my Porsche Boxster 986. These speakers are over 20 years old, and as you can see in the photo, especially the right speaker, they're pretty worn. I decided to use the Kicker speakers from Crutchfield. As you can see, I paid about just under $60 for these, and they came with a wiring kit. There's a picture of the speaker, obviously, and the wiring kit. I did get two speakers, even though I just show one in the photo, but yeah, two wiring harnesses, which is going to make my installation a lot easier. Now, Crutchfield sent us some rather simplistic instructions. The first step, obviously, they tell you to remove the two Torx screws from the top of the speakers and the dash, then remove the three Phillips screws securing the speakers onto the speaker mount, and then they say fabricate a speaker mounting bracket, which is of course quite an understatement. And that's the point of this video, is to fabricate a speaker mounting bracket. Now you'll see in my video that I used a 4-inch piece of PVC to go to work as part of my new mounting bracket. I haven't seen anybody else use this technique, so that's why I created the video. Quite simply, there's a 4-inch mounting bracket. The speaker fits nicely into the 4-inch PVC, and I use some scrap plastic to create hold downs. The PVC is cut to a thickness of 5/16 inches. And I use scrap plastic to create hold downs, both in the front and the back. We utilize the factory screws, two on the right hand side and one on the left side. And then we added a couple of additional screws that screw into the PVC to keep it secure. Now this is the technique that most people are showing on the web. They cut the plastic of the existing bracket and they drop the new speaker into the cut bracket. And I'm not saying my technique is better, I'm just saying here's an alternative. This is a really good video that I took screen grabs from. And so you can see in this image that they're starting to cut the bracket. And then when you're done with this technique, this is your mounting ring that you'll drop your speaker in. They tell you to keep the connector. Of course, we don't have to do that because we've got the little connectors that came with our speakers. So we can easily just plug our connectors in and we don't need to keep that part of the mounting bracket. And then I believe they glue it into place and mount it in the car using the original mounting bracket. So now that you've seen both techniques, I'll walk you through mine using the 4-inch PVC. I know some of you may not want to use the PVC technique, and that's fine. Thanks for watching. Okay, so I went to my table saw and I cut a scrap piece of 4-inch PVC that I had on hand to a thickness of 5/16. I think you can go down to a 1/4 inch. I wouldn't go thicker than 5/16, and you'll see why later in the video. I used a fine-tooth saw blade, and it's mounted in backwards. So no comments, please, on the rusty blade. It's just used for cutting scrap. No big deal. Now, if you're in the European market, you may not have access to 4-inch PVC, so this video may only apply to domestic US Porsche owners. And this was the best attempt I could make to show you that the thickness of the PVC is 5/16 inches thick. Here are some of the tools I used. Drill bits, a drill, On the far right is a box of washers. We have a razor knife, aviation shears, a little dish for holding your screws. I highly recommend that. There's the 4-inch PVC in the center, scrap piece of plastic on the lower right, and some small screwdrivers. Once again, I really recommend using a small bowl or dish or lid to keep your screws in. Otherwise, because you're using a magnetic speaker, they may be attracted to the bottom of the speaker and you'll spend a lot of time chasing them around. And we also use a tape measure, a circle template, and some pliers. Now we're about to get started. I used a soldering iron, but you really don't need to use it. That's optional, and I'll show you in the next step. The very first thing I did was if you look at those two red circles, I heated up the solder on those speakers, and I pulled the wiring out that had the original, that was used for the original tweeter. We won't need that tweeter in our new kicker speaker because the tweeter's included in the speaker, but this is 20th century technology that we're looking at. And then we use some packing tape just to keep those wires out of the way. Some of you would want to remove the tweeter. That's fine. I just decided to tape it down and leave it in the fixture. And that's our original speaker in its speaker bracket. And here's our lid or top part. We're going to keep that. We're not going to modify that. What's nice is we have that sort of brownish, grayish mesh there. So that's going to help us because we don't have to paint that white PVC. We won't be able to see it when we're looking down into the car. We won't have to paint it black. So that part is helpful to us. Now there's the PVC sitting on top of our speaker lid. It doesn't fit in it. Some people may be able to mill it so it does fit into it. I didn't do that. And here I'm just showing you that the perimeter is of our lid, of our speaker lid, our speaker cap is a little bit over 4 inches. And our PVC is a little bit bigger than that, but it sits nicely on top of our speaker cap. So here's the really exciting part. Our 4-inch PVC fits nicely and snugly right in with our kicker speaker. So there's no modification or anything, no glue needed. It's just a really nice fit, and that's half the battle. Now that's just me showing you that if you turn the speaker upside down, because of the fit, it won't slide off. That's a nice, tight, snug fit once again. Okay, so we're about to make our hold downs that'll keep that speaker and the PVC in place. So we're going to go to some scrap plastic. I do like that little rounded corner, and I'm going to cut about 1.5 inches square using my aviation shears. So now this is important. The speaker is going to, the amount of plastic I want is about 3/4 of an inch. I want that speaker to overhang the through hole just a little bit, and I want it to tangentially touch the speaker, and I want it to sit on top of the speaker tab. So what I'm doing is I'm measuring 3/4 from the corner. I'm going to take that little screwdriver and I'm going to score the plastic to make a mark at 3/4 of an inch. Then I'm going to use the PVC ring to make an arc on the plastic, and I'm going to score that arc with my screwdriver. And there's our nicely scored arc on the plastic. Next, you can use aviation shears if you don't mind making a rough cut, or for a more precise cut, I recommend using a razor knife. And it only took me about 4 or 5 strokes to work through that plastic. Now I'm taking an 1/8 inch drill bit and I'm drilling a hole, as you can see, not exactly at the corner, in a little bit. And 1/8 inch drill bit is generous. Our screw will definitely fit through that hole. Okay, so my goal here is to countersink the screw a bit, and I'm taking the drill bit and I'm working the drill bit manually through that hole. Obviously, if I used a drill, my intention would not to be to drill right through it, but that could happen. So that's why I'm using the drill bit manually. It's sharp enough, and I get a nice countersink there for the head of my screw. Okay, so we've got our tab in position. So what's really important is that you can see that little bit of a nub at the bottom in the bracket. If you look in the bracket, there's a bit of the screw has to be present there so that it stays in position. And more specifically, I've circled it here. This, you have to see this, or your screw is just not going to stay in place. Okay, so we've done the front, and I will put some additional screws in there, but now we're going to go work on the other side, the right-hand side. Okay, so on the side that's by the tweeter, we can see we've got 2 through holes that support, 2 through hole shafts that support our factory screws, and they are about 1.25 inches apart. Also, there's a little electronic component, a transistor or a resistor, and I put an arrow pointing to it. I'm going to leave that there because I'm going to use it to anchor my plastic mounting tab. I've taken a circle template, and it appears that the hole around my tweeter is about 1.5 inches. You can probably use a cap from a plastic container that you have around the house that should match that arc. So if you don't have a circle template handy, just go around and look at plastic jugs around the house. And we'll go back to our scrap plastic and we'll cut a couple inches out. And then I'm going to create an arc using that circle template, and I'm going to score the plastic with the small screwdriver. So I've also drilled a hole that will anchor this plastic in the proper position. That's going to go around the electrical component. And we're going to go to our razor blade and deepen the scored mark. Then I'll use some pliers to work that tab up and down, and it'll break off really nicely. And you can see that that fits okay. It's not perfect, but it's not a mess, too much of a mess anyway. So that's okay. We can keep moving forward with this scrap piece of plastic. And what we're going to do is we're going to score the plastic at the edges where it meets the inner circle of our 4-inch PVC. So I'm not sure if you can see those marks on the video, but on each of the sides I've made a mark, and we're going to create an arc. We're using our small screwdriver again, flathead screwdriver, and we're going to create an arc using the PVC. Now, once again, we've scored the plastic with our flathead tiny screwdriver. Going to use the razor blade to deepen the scored mark. And then we'll use our pliers to break that arc off our plastic. And well, that's what our hold down looks like, and it'll fit right on top of the PVC, on top of the speaker tab. And then we have to sort of eyeball where we want to drill our first hole, and we'll do that with the drill. And that's us trying to use it. We're going to use an 1/8 inch drill bit again to put a hole in the hold down. And if you remember, our two factory hole supports are 1 1/4 inches apart, so I'm going to go to my plastic, measure 1 1/4 inches from the hole that I just drilled, and I will put in the screw for the other side, and then I'm going to drill into the PVC and put a third screw so that that bracket doesn't move around on me while the speaker's in place in the car. And then we're going to go back to the front, and I'm going to put 2 screws in the, I call it the front, the left side, whatever. I'm going to put 2 screws in there. So again, it's the PVC secure, and it's not going to slide out on us. And our factory screws are keeping everything in its proper position. And here's a good look at the side with the clip. That clip holds the speaker into the dash. And you can just see, if you look sort of center right, you can see the speaker tab just underneath the plastic hold down and right on top of the PVC. And there's our 2 speakers. They're ready to be mounted into the car. We've got our connectors plugged in, and we're ready to rock and roll. But there's one more step. We've got to take some pliers, and those 2 tabs, speaker tabs on the, we'll call them the right and the left sides, have to be bent up or broken off the speaker so that you can easily drop the speaker into the car. So if you're purchasing speakers, you probably want to get the ones with the 4 tabs. You don't want to get the ones that have the rectangular perimeter around the speaker, because they won't fit in to the dash. So in conclusion, we have the original factory speaker and the 4-inch PVC speaker bracket. Thanks for watching.